Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Dakisha Williams, your webinar strategist, and I am here to share with you the difference between workshops and webinars. Someone recently came on to my page and asked, and so therefore I want to share with you. The biggest difference for me in regards of workshops versus webinars. So typically, your traditional webinars are mostly a one-way communication, meaning that if I am delivering content, the audience is virtually listening to the information that I'm delivering. And so there is only one way of communicating. Now, depending on the platform, I can allow for Q&A at the end of my presentation, which I like to keep my Q&A at the end of my presentation because if I'm intentional about recording my webinar, then I want to make sure that I can reuse that content. I don't want a lot of questions in the middle of the content, so I leave that at the end. But with that being said, depending on the platforms, you can bring the person to the virtual floor or bring them on camera and allow them to ask their question, and you can then make it a two-way conversation. But the majority of a traditional webinar, you are actually doing most of the teaching or the facilitation. And then your listeners, viewers are really there to take notes and to, just soak in the information that you're sharing. The other thing about webinars is that it is one of the most efficient methodologies to deliver valuable content, right? So when we think about doing a keynote, during our keynote, if you're delivering a message from the stage, that's one to many. If you have a business model where you're like doing cold calls, right? So you have to hire someone, you have to train someone, you have to audit their calls to make sure that they're delivering the message the way that you would want it to be delivered, right? So that takes time. Whereas you are able to deliver your message to an audience of however many, depending on the platform you use, there's sometimes a cap on how many can be in the audience. But typically, even 100 to 500 people, right? And then if you're selling anything under I'd say $1,000 to $2,000, a webinar is a great platform to, position that particular product. Now, let's shift it over to the webinars. The workshops. If you're doing a workshops, and I love to do a mixture of both, to be honest with you. When I'm doing a workshop, I am probably selling a high ticket program. Okay. A workshop is more interactive. You want to make sure that you use a platform where your audience can come on camera and they can communicate both ways, right? So if someone has a question, they can raise their hand, they can ask you a question. You're not going to get that more so on a webinar. They can type the question in, but and you can answer it, but you can't really hear their voice. You can't hear them unless you do what I said earlier, and that's the Q&A section. With a workshop, it is very interactive. You can break it into small groups, depending on the size of the group. I love to sometimes bring my team in, depending on what we're working on, what we're building. We could be building a webinar funnel. We could be building out the launch, methodology. And we could have different people in different rooms. Like this group of people are working on challenges. This group of people are working on summits. This group of people are working on workshops. And so each of them are working individually, but it's a group of people here, a group of people here. And me as a facilitator, I can go in here and say, hey, let's talk a little bit about for the people that are just doing challenges. Let's talk a little bit for the people that are just doing summits. And I can speak directly to them. That just gave me an idea because we're going to do a masterclass on the most profitable launches. And I'm going to be teaching how to do a challenge, a summit, and a workshop, your choice. But I'm going to be teaching it all at the same time. And so I'm going to be sharing the methodologies that I've used that have generated no less than 10K. Otherwise, I'm not teaching it in our business in the last, 8 years, right? So hopefully this helps. If you want to generate additional revenue in your business, I want you to go to www.createconsistentleads.com. There's going to be a very short video that talks about the top 3 things that you need to do to consistently generate revenue in your business. And then you'll have opportunity to get some time on my calendar and have a conversation with me so that we can see what that looks like for your business or your business model. All right. My name is Dakisha Williams, your webinar strategist. Be passionate, be purposeful, but more importantly, be profitable. I'll see you next time.